We know that it's going to be challenging going into the holiday season, that our holiday season is going to look much different than normal for many Manitobans.
Tonight, details on the changes to public health restrictions now that they've been extended into January. Also tonight.
We came out to check the monolith, hopefully, but saw it on Reddit there maybe 24 hours ago.
A great mystery is unfolding near Pinawa.
We'll have a look at some of these temperatures from 3 o'clock this afternoon. Hard to believe it's December. When you're shoveling on Thursday, it's going to feel like December. CBC Winnipeg News starts right now.
This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Manitobans are about to see some changes to the current public health orders as of Saturday. We will get to that in just a moment. But first, here is a look at today's COVID-19 numbers, which remain steady in Manitoba. The province announced 245 new cases today. Daily cases appear to have plateaued recently in the 300 to 400 range. Another 13 Manitobans have died of COVID-19. All the victims are seniors, with the exception of a Winnipeg man in his 40s. 4 of the deaths are linked to an outbreak at the Charleswood Care Centre. Manitoba's death toll is now 420. There are 311 people in hospital, 38 in ICU. The province's current test positivity rate is 13.3%, and Winnipeg's rate is 13.9%. And because of that, Manitoba is going to be red for Christmas, code red, that is. The province is extending pandemic restrictions for another 4 weeks with some exceptions. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us now live from downtown Winnipeg. Bartley, how long will red restrictions be in place?
March, these restrictions are going to be in place all the way through the holidays and until January 8th. They're staying in place because of the way COVID-19 continues to spread across Manitoba. The daily case counts, they're flatlining in the hundreds, but those counts are still too high. Every 100 new cases means 2 more deaths and 6 more people in hospital. The Premier says we have to get these numbers down before the restrictions can be lifted.
It's crucial that Manitobans continue to limit their close contacts, only gather with members of their household this holiday season. That's going to be difficult. It's going to be lonely for many. But the best thing we can do now for our loved ones is to stay apart so that we may be together in person next year.
Bartley, there will be some tweaks to the restrictions. What's changing?
Well, starting Saturday, school supplies, they're now essential. Retail stores can sell them. And we're looking at secondhand stores. They can reopen as well. Holiday goods, they too are deemed essential. This means that gift wrapping, Christmas decorations, and Hanukkah menorahs, technically Chanukias, they can be sold. Acupuncturists and osteopaths, they can go back to work. And remember that fight between the province and 2 churches last week? Starting Saturday, drive-up gatherings will be allowed, provided cars only contain people from 1 household and everyone. Drive-up church services and holiday light displays, they can go ahead. There's some clarity for outdoor activities. You can do whatever you like outside. The province is trying to convince people to do things outside, but you have to do it with people from your own household. That means no backyard hockey with your buddies, but there is an exemption for the Winnipeg Jets. They will be able to train for a potential season in 2021 if that goes ahead.
We're dealing with a league that has purchased its own testing, has very strict requirements for routine testing. They have very strict requirements for self-isolation and quarantine that we've reviewed, and it's already been proven to be effective. When we look at these things, we see really no risk to the public in Manitoba. We see some benefit to having something for people to be looking forward to during these difficult times. So it's not the same protocols that could be in place for an 8-year-old hockey team.
Bartley, there is also some news on the vaccine front. What's happening?
Well, remember last week, Pallister sounded an alarm about what he was fearing to be a shortage or a per capita shortage of vaccines. Well, he was concerned because of our large Indigenous population. Well, he said he heard from the federal government and that just last night, they said that Manitoba will be getting about 10,000 more doses early.
Informed us that the Moderna vaccine, this is the one that doesn't require the super freezer allocation for first quarter, has been boosted by 15% for Manitoba to take into account the disproportionately large at-risk Indigenous population that we have in Manitoba.
Now, opposition leaders, they say the Premier is trying to take credit for something that would have happened anyway, and Indigenous leaders are still accusing the Premier of racism. They're saying he's trying to use First Nations to stoke fears about vaccine shortages. Now, some of those same leaders are asking Pallister, for an apology. Pallister says he'll have more to say about vaccines and how they'll roll out in Manitoba tomorrow. Back to you, Marge.
Thanks, Bartley. That is CBC's Bartley Kivas reporting live tonight. We wanted to hear how people are feeling about the extension of the restrictions. Some had strong words this afternoon.
It's kind of sad, like, can't get it with friends. Yeah.
Do you think the restrictions are fair?
I think it is because the vaccine hasn't rolled out yet, so it's safer to wait until the vaccines roll out.
I think it's unrealistic. Like, it's a hard time for everybody, right? And just, I mean, hopefully you have roommates that you love, right? Hopefully you're with family.
Terrible.
Okay.
Disgusting.
Why do you say that?
Because I can't spend it with my family. They're upset, but they'd be the first ones to complain if they got that disease and couldn't get into a hospital.
You know, I don't really think extending it is going to help, other than bankrupting and destroying people's lives.
Customers and staff at a West Broadway grocery store are mourning the loss of a cashier who many knew by name and looked forward to seeing on their weekly shopping trip. Now her 3 granddaughters are finding ways to keep her kindness alive. CBC's Holly Carrick has that story.
The food fair on Maryland Street is a little quieter today. Longtime cashier Shirley Pika died Friday from COVID-19.
She's going to be missed.
Customer Charlotte Ramsaran said she looked forward to seeing the 70-year-old grandmother on her weekly shopping trips.
She had a smile that was very contagious, a warm, loving spirit. She took personal interest in everybody, and she was a hard worker.
Store manager Ramsey Zeed said he'd known Pika for years through a family friend before she started working for him over a decade ago.
She showed up one day, says, "I'm working here now." And that was the end of the story.
Zeed said customers and staff had a special relationship with Pika. People who shopped at the store would wait in her line just to see her, even when other tills were open.
She's everybody's friend, everybody's grandma, everybody's confidant, psychologist. You could sit there and tell her your problems, and she'd listen. She'd give you the advice. Sometimes you didn't like the advice that she gave you, but she gave it to you straight.
Longtime customer Catherine Carruthers said she developed a bond with the grocery store employee, and the pair became coffee friends, meeting up to share stories about their grandkids.
I do not know what I will do for advice. I will be missing her from the bottom of my heart.
Pika became sick in November and spent weeks on a ventilator in the intensive care unit at Grace Hospital. Family wasn't allowed to see her.
They couldn't go and visit her, and they were heartbroken, her son and his wife and her granddaughters.
The 3 young girls began collecting gift cards and handmade thank you notes as a way of showing appreciation to the staff who were caring for their grandmother. They called it the Kindness Project. Zeed said the staff and customers at the store plan to support the project as a way of remembering Pika.
She brought everybody up. She motivated everybody.
In just a few weeks, the family has collected thousands of dollars in gift cards for restaurants and hundreds of thank you notes for healthcare workers. Holly Carrick, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Even though Pika was an essential worker, it's not believed she contracted COVID-19 at work. A growing outbreak at a Transcona nursing home has the Manitoba NDP asking the government to act. Close to 80% of residents living at Park Manor have tested positive for COVID-19. At least 64 people have been infected to date. 9 of them have died from the virus, and almost 30 staff members have tested positive. The growing numbers have the NDP's leader calling for action.
What I would hope is that the government has learned from its failures in so many other aspects of providing health care to seniors, that maybe they'll devote the resources to stamping down this situation and hopefully keep those people safe.
A spokesperson for the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority says it has staff on site to help the home deal with the outbreak. Home care staff have also been redeployed to work at the home. The chief of Shamattawa First Nation is pleading with Ottawa to evacuate elders from the remote community. Shamattawa is battling a severe COVID-19 outbreak. Chief Eric Redhead says more than 25% of the people in the community have tested positive. He wrote a letter to the Prime Minister today asking for help in airlifting seniors to a safe place. Redhead says the weather at this time of year is unpredictable. He says they can't rely on medevacs to evacuate people. Assembly of First Nations Chief Perry Bellegarde says he will also be writing to the Prime Minister to ask for help for Shamattawa. The two chiefs of Winnipeg's emergency services were at City Hall today looking for more money. CBC's Sean Cavanaugh has more on shortfalls in the police and fire department budgets.
It's not often you get both the fire and police chief down at City Hall at once, but both had some financial holes to fill. For the Winnipeg Police Service, a decision by an arbitrator in the spring on police pension plans left a $15 million shortfall over the next 3 years. The Winnipeg Police Service was able to find just over $600,000 in savings over the last few months, but it's still $2.9 million short this year alone, so it needed to ask the city to cover it. Chief Danny Smythe says by carefully managing the number of new officers and staff coming in over those who leave over the next year, it should be able to allow the service to make up the difference.
You know, we've had a larger than normal turnover in terms of retirements, well over our 10-year average. So we have a little bit of buffer there in terms of managing vacancy management.
The fire paramedic service needs even more help. It's a $4.4 million shortfall. Every year, it underestimates payouts for overtime, and it did it again this year. And then there's the pandemic.
That has increased the number of absences due to people being absolutely forbidden from coming to work with any symptoms whatsoever of cold or flu or anything. B, the self-isolation that was required certainly when the outbreak occurred.
The Finance Committee voted to fund the budget shortfalls for both services out of the city's fiscal stabilization fund, but that decision still requires a vote from City Council. These are decisions that affect budgets in 2020, the year just wrapping up, but the city is right now in the middle of setting the budget for next year. What no one is exactly sure of is just how much financial damage the pandemic will cause, and specifically how it'll affect Winnipeg in 2021. Sean Cavanaugh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Sid Heminger is the owner of a Choose and Cut Christmas tree farm in the Old Pinawa area. He was worried about business slowing down because of the pandemic, but now he's fully booked and trying to keep up with the demands. Videographer Liza Saleh visited the Hemingers tree farm recently.
We have been selling trees here since about 2009. We were a Choose and Cut Christmas tree farm. People would come in and wander around the property, pick trees. My name is Sid Heminger. My wife Kathy and I are owners of Hemingers Trees, and we operate in the Old Pinawa area. When the order came down, basically that Christmas trees are a non-essential item. The only way we could do business was as a curbside. So we thought the best way would be to choose the trees for individuals. My wife and I go and pick the trees the day before and cut them. And people come and pick them up. My wife has taken the order. The tree's about 7 feet tall, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to cut it down. We're managing. Thank goodness we have a great neighbor who's helping us haul the trees up. It's a little bit tiring. You wake up in the morning, you're tired, but we're getting through it. And I think we're keeping people safe. Oh, it's been crazy. Normally we sell pretty much locally. You get the odd person from Winnipeg. But this year it's just crazy. People are just scrambling to get a tree. That's unusual. We've never sold out before. We were certainly concerned that, we weren't sure what was going to happen. Once we got our heads wrapped around the whole situation, we just kind of put things in order, and it worked. The odd one is saying that they would rather be cutting their tree, but most of them are just happy to get a Christmas tree. And some of them even said, this is really great. We don't have to go out there and cut it down ourselves. It's really nice to get to the point where you're selling out. The income will definitely be there this year, more than it's ever been. I think it's important because it's tradition. It's a family getting together and taking the trip down to the tree farm. I think that's what it's all about.
If you're hoping to get a tree from Sid's lot, he wants you to know that because of the demand, he is planning on shutting down his operation by December 14th. A great mystery has unfolded near Pinawa over the last couple of days. It's a phenomenon that's drawing in curiosity seekers from far and wide. CBC's Jonathan Ventura has more.
So is it solid?
Mysterious silver structures known as monoliths have appeared around the world, from Utah to Romania and now here in Canada. With no known creators, some believe the structures have been placed by aliens, while others believe it's an art installation inspired by the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. This weekend, a new monolith was found at a decommissioned dam in Manitoba. Locals were quick to take up the search.
We came out to check the monolith, hopefully, but saw it on Reddit there maybe 24 hours ago.
And there's a freaking monolith right there, guys.
Social media posts of the monolith quickly circulated on Sunday and brought tourists to the provincial park to see the three-sided triangular structure at the Pinawa Provincial Dam.
There's a monolith.
Roger Lacroix frequents the Pinawa Dam for recreation, but this time he came to find the mysterious sculpture.
So we're going down to see if it's still there. Let's go explore.
To his disappointment, by Monday, the mysterious object disappeared as quickly as it arrived.
That's the fifth inlet. Here's the tree. So it was just hitting that last branch. And this is the rock, so it was right here.
The only thing left remaining are sled marks and tree debris.
There's a lot of tracks, a lot of movement, so easily somebody could have come in here and just mounted it right in between the rocks there.
I think it came from a right.
CBC was able to track down the creator of the Manitoba monolith, who wants to remain anonymous. They said their goal was simple: to make something fun for the public and to break up the terror of COVID.
So I was not working today, so I drove out, but it's not here. But yeah, we found exactly where it was. I met a few other people, and maybe there's like 10 or 20 other people sort of scattered around the area searching for it. And yeah, it's just interesting, a little adventure.
The creator says they aren't sure who removed the structure from the Pinawa Dam, creating a brand new mystery. Jonathan Ventura, CBC News, Pinawa.
Fascinating. Well, John, as we can see there in Jonathan's story, we could see people's breath. It looked really cold out there, but that certainly wasn't the case here today.
Not the case here today. We had 23 locations, Marjorie, around the province that broke records. I've got a sample here that I'll show you, including the Winnipeg area. Now, our record was set back in 1928 and in 1939, so it was a tie. And that was 5.6. 6.6 today. 8 degrees in Carman, or 8.1, and that broke a record back in 2015. Similar for Morden and Portage. Gimli at 6.2, and that smashed the old record that was over 20 years old. But Yeah, even McCreary, Manitoba at 10.1 today. That, strangely, was the Manitoba hotspot, but not a record. The record there was 11, and that was set back in the 1990s. Projected daytime highs are going to change. Look at this trend as we look at the model trends going down and down and down on into the weekend and on into next week. Right now we are at 4 degrees, and even if that was the daytime high, that would be exceptional. We did make it to that 6.6 today. West winds now at 15, and the pressure's falling slightly. Kind of cloudy as well, and there is some breaks in that cloud up to the north of us. But you look at the big picture, and generally across the south, we stay under the cloud cover overnight tonight and get back into some brighter skies for tomorrow morning. Doesn't really show up all that well overnight here, but in the morning, clear skies. And then the weather starts to move in from the west, and you can see some snow already falling in through southern Saskatchewan by tomorrow afternoon. The pinks and the blues you see here, the pink is a mix or even freezing rain, and the blue is liquid. It's rain. But as this moves off into Manitoba, it really gets here a lot later. So right along the international border, we could see that mix of precipitation in the Winnipeg area here by Wednesday, 11:30 p.m. We're into some snow, and then that kind of moves out on Thursday. So by Thursday morning, we'll have some snow on the ground. I think that the cloud that you see here will produce some more flurries and maybe another centimeter or so on Thursday through the day and on into the afternoon. And we still have a chance for some flurries on Friday. Latest model run, and boy, the consistency and the trends have been going upward here. It looks like 5 or 6 right across that stretch of southern Manitoba, higher amounts